StudioSpares the Phoenix that has risen from the ashes. Of course, my big assumption is you all know what a phoenix is. But for those that don't, it's a mythical bird. If you watched Harry Potter, it was Dumbledore's pet. But in essence, a phoenix is a bird that rebirths itself out of the ashes of its former self. And that's what we seem to have with StudioSpares. StudioSpares is again trading, but not as StudioSpares.
Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon.
Appearing on many media sites in the last couple of weeks, there has been an announcement. And the announcement basically, and I'm going to read from screen because the screen's over here. We are thrilled that Gear for Music has officially welcomed StudioSpares into its Gear for Music family. And that's right, StudioSpares has bought, not StudioSpares, sorry, Gear for Music has bought, not StudioSpares, but it has bought the name StudioSpares and the intellectual property for StudioSpares and any remaining stock that was present in the StudioSpares facility. I think everything else has basically gone to pot. So the company StudioSpares Europe Limited, that I think is gone. I think the premises, I think they were in Bedford if I remember correctly, but the premises I believe have gone. And Gear for Music has basically bought those three things. And what do those three things actually mean? Well, the purchase of the name StudioSpares actually means they have the right to trade as StudioSpares. So they can use the brand or they can actually trade as StudioSpares. In actual fact, if you go to the StudioSpares website, you are automatically now forwarded to a page on the Gear for Music website that is a StudioSpares page. So they can trade as StudioSpares. That's what buying StudioSpares name means. But they can also trade as the other four brands that StudioSpares, or other four core brands, should I say, that StudioSpares operated. Those being Lambden Audio, Imperative Audio and Trojan Pro. Now, I'm not really sure what Lambden Audio and Imperative Audio do. I've seen DI boxes and those sort of pieces of equipment with the name Lambden Audio on it. But the Trojan name I do know, because if you have followed the website or followed the YouTube channel for a period of time, you will have seen in the background at various points in time various flight cases which effectively were transitioned to this unit behind me, but they were all Trojan Pro flight cases. They do that sort of thing. It's all cases, stands, and mic stands and speaker stands and other things of that sort of hardware-y nature that you need as a musician, but they actually don't contribute very much to the overall playing experience. They just make it easier to get from A to B and store your equipment. So that's what the name StudioSpares mean. When they talk about intellectual property or IP, what they're talking about is any patents and designs that StudioSpares may have owned that relate to its equipment. So anything that Lambden Audio, Imperative Audio, Trojan Pro, or even StudioSpares, in terms of how they put things together and the knowledge around how they put things together, that is considered intellectual property, as is things like customer lists, marketing lists, that sort of stuff. So they've bought the rights to use that. So if you are a StudioSpares customer, I don't know whether this may happen or not, but you might get an email out of the blue from Gear for Music at some point in the future when they actually start to unravel the StudioSpares client base. And the last thing is the assets. So they've bought the stock. So as we understand it, or as I understand, I say we, I mean the royal we, of course. As I understand it, stock means anything that was left in the warehouse when StudioSpares Europe went bust. So they have that, and that is, I think, evident from the fact that if you go to the Gear for Music website, you're starting to see listings now for standard things like cables and cables. But I'm not seeing what I would consider the full range of cables that would have been available from StudioSpares had they continued trading. So I suspect at the moment things are slowly being posted to the Gear for Music website. And the other thing about this is that if you go to the Gear for Music website, it's kind of, the StudioSpare stuff is now kind of intermingled with the Gear for Music stuff. So it's not obvious what is something from StudioSpares and what is something not from StudioSpares, if that makes any sense. I'm sure it'll all get sorted out once they get on with the sort of bringing the two companies and bringing the brands together. This was only announced on, I think it was the 22nd of October. So you're seeing this on the 1st of December. This was the 22nd of October. So they've only literally owned the brands for about a month. The press release only went out 2 weeks ago. I caught it. Why did I catch it? I can't remember how I caught it. It wasn't something I was looking for, and all of a sudden it flashed up. So the press release has gone out and they bought it. I said in the last segment I didn't know where I caught it from. I'll tell you where I caught it from. I caught it from something that came up on the internet during a search, and I clicked on it and I got Gear for Music's trading statement. And in that trading statement, that was where it specifically said they bought StudioSpares on the 22nd of October. And they said they paid £150,000 for it, which I think is probably a bit of a bargain. Now, if you ever read a trading statements are all about things like profit before tax, EBIT, I've got to get this right, EBITDA. And if you're not in the financial circuits, don't worry about that. It's all financial gobbledygook. But amongst that, you will find those statements about the sort of acquisition of StudioSpares and the fact they're going to integrate that into the Gear for Music brand. Now, what's also very interesting, I didn't realise that Gear for Music is much more than you kind of realise through the website. So I'd probably keep an eye on this company at some point, and at some point it may actually make a profit. Anyway, on this one, I'm going to say live long and prosper, live long StudioSpares, hopefully if they can get their acting gear, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.